Normally, the subjects I cover are controversial when compared with every known writing, and this one is no different. However, the topic of this video is the spirit and the soul, which are a part of the Atman and or incorporated into the Atman. But the problem I'm having with this particular subject is it's actually quite complex. And in fact, I don't know of anywhere in the world where it's defined properly, both from Catholicism, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, any teaching anywhere in the world. Because it is so well in depth, I guess, the difference between a soul and a spirit and how it functions and what the purpose is of it. And typically the reason it's, no, not typically, the reason it's so difficult for people to understand and grasp is because in all actuality, you don't need to know this stuff. This is just stuff that people that have a profound love for God are going to want to know these things, and they're going to research these things. It would be the equivalent of someone that drives a car to work every day, and their job is very in depth and it's very complex, but they don't know the process of how the engine works or every detail about the electrical aspect of it. And they're never going to, and they don't care because their life is not dependent upon how an engine works. Similarly, in this reality, our eternal existence or well-being doesn't need to know the difference between a soul and a spirit, etc., etc. It's just that if it is your hobby or your drive to know how God put things together and why things are put together the way they are, then you're going to be interested in this sort of stuff. And so consequently, you're going to find bits and pieces of it here, there, and everywhere in the world, but you're not going to ever find a full detailed measure of what these things actually mean because nobody knows unless they get it directly from God. And there's very few people in existence that have ever gotten that sort of thing. And prior to the last, say, 30 years, if a person like myself, or which is a no count nobody from nowhere, so to say, receives direct information from God because they inquire, that information is solely kept within that individual because they're not known by the world and they don't have writings and they're not a member of a well-known establishment. So it goes to the grave with them. And that's common throughout all history. So this particular subject, yes, I know what it means, but it's still complex and difficult to convey. And you're not going, it will make sense to you when I explain it, but only if you put it all together. It's like, I won't go there. But anyways, so I don't really want to refer to my iPad, but I do have to look at it occasionally because the subject is so complex. But people do commonly use the term interchangeable, that spirit, soul, and they are not interchangeable. They are completely different things. Let me explain. So, for instance, a soul can be considered like a bank vault, and it contains 100% of what you have created in your existence from the time you created yourself into existence. Now, as a human being, of course, we don't have recollection or instant recall to what we may have learned 2 billion years ago as an amoeba or something of that nature. We don't recall. The culmination of everything is manifest in this human form in one way or another, as long as our physical body and mind is not compromised through retardation or something of that nature, which is a common thing. But short of that, the culmination of everything we learned manifests in this reality in one way or another. And so look at a soul as the bank vault containing every choice you ever made and what those choices actually mean. And they're all stored in the soul. A spirit is something else. It's like an intangible thing. Because you can, here's a common saying. Somebody will say, look at that spirited horse, for instance. So spirit is like an adjective defining the horse, as the horse isn't a deadbeat, that it is a bucking bronco or something. You wouldn't say a lazy horse laying on the ground, boy, that's a real spirited horse, would you? No, you wouldn't. When you say that's a real spirited horse, it's like very active. So the spirit is the propellant, if you will, of your soul. So your soul, which is essentially what you are, so to say, is drawn like gravity from good or evil, God or not God, Jesus or Satan, etc., etc. It's drawn not between the likes or dislikes of a hamburger, but spiritually speaking, good and evil. And there are two spirits. And this is why in a lot of scriptures they talk about Elohim as being God, but yet the word is commonly known by scholars as Elohim is a plurality of gods. And what that means is, yes, indeed, there is a plurality of gods in the sense of spirit. So there is the Spirit of God, or the Spirit of Christ, and then there's the Spirit of Satan. In Hinduism, it would be the spirit of I draw a blank right now. My mind always draws a blank when I go that direction. I'll print it up on the screen afterwards. But there's good and evil, and it's drawn between these two sources. One source is God, one source is not God, Satan. And it can be drawn like gravity one way or another. And they're both gods, by the way. And that's how Elohim is said. Because a lot of people would argue Elohim is like the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or, they come up with all these crazy things as though there's a need for more than one God. Think about it. And does this make sense to you? Think about it. If there really is a God, which I know there is, does that God actually need more gods besides itself to do what it does? Of course not. It doesn't. It's God. It's complete. It doesn't need any others to help it out. So consequently, when we're referring to the concept of Elohim, we're not talking about the main creator God of reality. In Hinduism, that would be Brahma. And so we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is the other gods, meaning Satan and Christ. And these two gods have their spirits that they created. And when we come into existence, we adopt one or the other. And prior to our birth here in the physical world, when I say prior to our birth here, that could have been 1,000 births ago. I don't know. But prior to being born in this reality, we only activated or experienced the Spirit of Christ or the Spirit of God. And then when we were born here, that particular spirit remains dormant in our soul, and then the spirit of Satan is the predominant or the indigenous spirit in our physical bodies and in our soul, which is why Jesus and others have mentioned that the natural man is an enemy to God, because the spirit that is in the physical human body that is indigenous is the spirit of Satan. And this is very confusing to almost every religion on the planet. They don't know how to make sense of it. They know these things exist, but they don't know how to make sense of it. So there's Yahweh and Satan, and those two comprise why the word Elohim came into existence. So anyways, yeah, let me look at my iPad. This is a weird subject. Like I said, it's so damn complex that how I go about this, I hope I'm not boring you. How I go about this is I inquire of God. What happens is I get an idea, it just comes to me. And then I start writing. And I might write for 2 days, I might write for a month, until it all comes and gels. And it is typically something that I have been inspired from possibly 20 years ago, and in some case 40 years ago, and finally it culminated with me. And then I start writing it down, and then when I feel like it's complete, then I'll make a video. And typically it's, for me at least, seemingly very simple subject, and I'm able to cover it quite easily. This particular one is not as easily understood because it's really quite complex. So, with no further ado, so yeah, there's a concept of a kalpa of time. And when that kalpa of time is over, God ceases to support the creation that God created into existence. To start the cycle all over, this samsara, if you will, the whatever. And so what happens is, since most people realize that when they're studying spirituality, they understand that reality is an illusory reality. And what they don't realize is it is created by God. And it has no tangibility to it because everything is an illusion. It is only tangible to us because we think it's tangible, but it isn't. When I hit my knee, I mean, like anything that is physical, it's all an illusion. And when this kalpa of time is over, that ceases to exist. Now, God created the soul as the bank vault. That particular soul is a creation of God. The spirit is a creation of Christ and Satan. And those two individuals actually vie for our attention, so to say. Christ's spirit vies for our attention through love. Satan vies for our attention through wisdom or knowledge or power, etc. And they both reside in our soul. Now, a soul is also a totally belonging to God, and it contains all of these things. This is a concept, I know it up here, I'm going to try to verbalize it as best I can. But the soul that contains the Atman, that contains everything that you are, well, let's put it this way. You've heard the name Holy Ghost. And most Christianity understands that. They say, well, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Well, they don't know what the Holy Ghost is. They know what the Father is. They don't know what the Son is, really. They say they do, but they don't, because they confuse it with the Father, but as if they're both one. But they're not. So there's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Well, the Holy Ghost is a combination of these two plus you. There's four, actually. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. There's actually four. I mean, that's confusing to most people. Every time you see the term Holy Ghost, notice how holy is capitalized and ghost is capitalized. That means two individual things. If holy was an adjective describing ghost, or vice versa, one would be capitalized, the other wouldn't. But both are capitalized. They're two separate entities combined into a single thing. That would be like a car with two people in it. Well, the people are not a car, and yet they're inside the car. So Holy Ghost is a single car with a person in it. So holy, as you well know, is a name for God. So holy in your spirit is God. And ghost, as capitalized, is you. Your Atman, your essence of what you really are. And it's capitalized because that is you. God said that we are all gods, or the essence of what we are is embryonic gods, so to say. And so the Holy Ghost is a combination of both God and you combined into a single thing. Now, here is the interesting part. And boy, I'm trying to convey this. This is not easy. So when the kalpa of time is over, you got this Holy Ghost. When the kalpa of time is over, and the evil ones, let's just say Satan, but all of them, including Satan, that are evil, that will not reside in heaven, so to say. When I say so to say, that's because, don't take heaven literally. It's kind of, that's a different subject. It's real, but it's with God. So when the kalpa of time is over, and those that are evil go back into Brahman, which is outer darkness, which is the non-existence of where they came from prior to being created into reality, they lose their ability to stay in a creation created by God, because they have to go. Because God's not going to maintain this, and they can't be with God because they're not like God. So when they leave, you got the Holy Ghost. Well, since they're both one and the same, like a person in a car. A car is not a person is not a car. So when the ghost part leaves, the holy remembers what the ghost was, did, thought, and everything, because both are one. So when you get a vaccine, for instance, it used to be prior to this COVID thing, the vaccine was a virus that could no longer reproduce itself. And then they would give you a vaccine, your body would build well, I'm not going to teach medicine, but you know what I'm saying. So the ghost part of Holy Ghost, when it goes back into outer darkness after this kalpa of time is over, the ghost part is gone, but remaining in the holy is the replicate or the virus that can no longer reproduce itself. That's why God can know absolutely 100% of everything about evil and Satan and everything without ever participating in it or ever actually being evil, and yet knowing everything there is to know about evil. Because of that scenario, I don't want to go over it again because it's really difficult for most people to understand this. It's difficult for me to explain it. Because you're dealing with several things. You're dealing with a soul, the container, the bank vault of everything you are, and then you're dealing with spirits, two spirits. And then you're dealing with all of this is the Holy Ghost. So the container, the soul is holy. The ghosts, they are a separate, the spirits are separate things and their power. They're motivators to get the soul to go somewhere. But what is the soul? That is the question. I know what it is. But the soul, what is it containing? What is all of this stuff? It's all the essence of what you are, the Atman of what you are. For instance, here's a concept. I've taught this many times on my videos. Outer darkness, Brahman, is where everything emanates from. It's unorganized. Brahman isn't a God. It isn't something that you pray to. It isn't anything. It has no awareness of itself. It isn't anything. It's nothing. Okay, that doesn't mean nothing like you normally think nothing is. Nothing means no thing. What is a thing? A thing is a person, place, or thing. Things are things. They're everything that's created. Everything, thing. Everything you think. It's a thing. But where does all that come from if there's no thing? Because all things are God. Does that make sense to you? So since everything comes from no thing, a combination with God, because God is the creator of all things, we are able to come into existence from no thing. Now, so I've said this before, God shed his light, which is his spirit, which is, I shouldn't even say spirit, but that is kind of it, the love of God. And it's like a bright light shining in the darkness. It isn't grabbing something out of the darkness and pulling it out. It isn't forcing. It isn't doing anything. It's like the sun that shines and the light goes. If you look at the light and go, oh, wow, the light isn't causing you to look at it. You are the one that's looking at it, and it has nothing to do with you looking at it. It's just there. Whether or not you look at it is your prerogative. So you exist in outer darkness. You exist in a reality of no thing. And when you see the love of God, you can respond to that. And if you do respond to that, then you create yourself into existence, into the existence of God, Brahma. You create yourself into that existence, okay, from nothing. And then billions of years go by. And one thing after another starts to get created in everything. Well, in this process, this is one thing that I don't like this teaching, mainly because it's wrong and it's satanic. There's a lot of spiritual teachers and most gurus and everything teach that, well, you look inside. Anything you want, you look inside. Okay, where did they draw the line to be ignorant? Where did they draw the line that says, oh, look inside, that's where you're going to find everything? Well, when there was no inside, when you existed in nothingness and you looked inside for all eternity, there was nothing there and you never became created. So to say look inside is ignorance. It's stupidity. It is a concept that runs counter to enlightenment. Enlightenment means, yes, you might have light inside you, but how did that damn light get inside of you? Does that make sense? It got there because you got it from God, the creator of light. So at some point along the path, people go, oh, well, look inside if you want to become enlightened. No, you do not look inside. You look inside if you think you're God, which is exactly the concept of non-duality, which will lead you down a path that leads to nothingness again and destroys everything you've ever gotten to in the past several billion years. But no, do not look inside. No, if you want to know who you are, fine, look inside. But if you want to know who you want to become, then you cannot look inside. You have to look outside. There's no outside except for God. You have to look to God for inspiration, for visions, for revelations. They come to you and then they come inside of you, just like a lemon. You taste a lemon. If somebody has never had a lemon before in their entire life, and they go, oh, what's that? And I go, well, it's a lemon as I'm eating it. And they go, wow, what does that taste like? It because you're really going, woo, why is that doing that to you? And if I said to them, oh, I don't know, look inside if you want to know what a lemon tastes like. Well, that's just preposterous. There's no way they can know what a lemon tastes like until they go outside of themselves to eat the lemon, and then it's inside of themselves. But they can't go inside themselves to know what a lemon is until they actually go outside. So that teaching is totally counterproductive to enlightenment, totally counterproductive to learning any more than what you already know. Does that make sense? Yes, you can take a lot of numbers and start placing them here, and 10 plus 10 equals 20, and you can do all of this stuff because that's already inside of you. But if you want to get something besides what you already have, you have to go outside, and the only outside source is God. That's the only way. When you listen to people like me or gurus or whoever, if they're a true teacher, they're going to be telling you all these things that I'm telling you, but in the end, they're not going to say, worship me, follow me, or whatever. They're going to teach you everything they can and say, I can't give you the dang lemon. I can't do it. I can't give it to you. I can teach you all of these things, but you have to go to the source of all lemons, which is God. You have to go vertical. You can't get it from me. You can't get it from anyone. You have to get it from God. That's the only way. Now, you can read your holy books and you can do all of this stuff and you can spend a lifetime doing all this stuff, and that's all great. Those are stepping stones. But when you get tired and bored with that sort of thing in your life and you want to know more, you have to go vertical, because those things you can't get out of books. You can't get them from gurus. You can't get them from anywhere other than God. So, let me go back to my see if I missed anything. No, I think I covered it. Again, I don't know how, I mean, I do the best I can on these videos. My writings are very well done, but I don't really share. No, it's not really. I don't share them with anyone. I don't mind sharing them with anyone, but nobody's ever really, very few people ask. If you want to know, or if you even want to correspond with me, I'll be more than happy to do that. And I'll put my email on the, I'll do it on the writing on the video, because every time I've done it otherwise, when people ask, for some reason it doesn't, I don't know. I never get any responses, because I don't know if people say they want my email and then they don't send it, or for some reason YouTube doesn't forward it. I honestly don't know. It's not that I'm trying to be off standoffishness or anything of that nature. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't work. Anyways, I do the best I can. So anyways, I appreciate you watching this. I know it was a very difficult concept for most people to understand, simply because they've been indoctrinated their whole life with false doctrine, false teachings. Nobody understands correctly what the Holy Ghost is. Nobody understands correctly. When I say nobody, I mean people that publish things and people that teach things openly. I'm sure there's lots of people in the world that understand this sort of thing, but they don't publish it, and they don't make YouTube videos and stuff like that. The only people that know these sorts of things, they don't publish it, because it isn't anywhere in the world that I'm aware of. And I've been to lots of sources. So anyways, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I really appreciate anybody that likes these videos. It means a lot to me if you do, because I get a whole lot of negative feedback. And the reason I get negative feedback is pretty simple to understand. I don't mind the negative feedback. It doesn't hurt me. But it's extremely common. And the reason it's so common is, think about it. If you spent a lifetime trying to understand Christianity and this and that and everything else, and what I'm teaching you runs counter to what you've learned your whole life, it's hard to do that. And so you lash out and say, oh, you horrible satanic bastard, I don't want to talk to you, and you're horrible, and you're fat, and you're ugly, and all of these things. And so I understand why people do that. Hell, I was in those same shoes 25, 30 years ago. So I understand. But for those that are not offended by what I teach, thank you. Thank you very much. We will be eternal friends. So thank you. Anyways, I hope you have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.